is Morgan Ritter. I work at the Arts Council of Lake Oswego as the curator and program manager. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm an artist and a poet, and I've been working the arts for a long time in various ways, but mostly working directly with artists and supporting their visions and exhibitions, projects like that. And yeah, we're recording this event, so I'm sure you all saw there's signs that we're recording this event for educational purposes. Let me know if you have any questions about that or if you're not comfortable with that. Definitely you can sit in the back and yeah, that should be fine. So a little bit about the Arts Council of Lake Oswego. For those who don't know, we are located on A Avenue in Lake Oswego, in the same building that City Hall is. We provide various programs such as public art. So we're contracted by the city of Lake Oswego to provide public art, and we do some permanent work and then also some rotating outdoor sculpture and some 2D work that's placed in municipal buildings. We also work, we have a gallery called Art Space, and that's where I focus. So I curate the gallery with 4 to 6 exhibitions annually, and a combination of regional artists and more nationally known artists, and try to bring a lot of new energy into the space. We provide educational programming such as this event. We also do docent tours and volunteer programs and school tours, and we have brochures on the back for self-guided walking tours. You can see of the Gallery Without Walls program. And there are many ways to support ACLO. We have you can find information like that about that on the website. So, art and community and conversation. It's one of the Arts Council's free education programs, and we're inviting community members to engage in lively, inclusive, and informal dialogue with regional artists. We're so grateful to be here with Jeffry Mitchell and Iván Carmona. We're going to talk more about them, and I'll share a brief introduction of you two. But first, I just really want to thank Josie Mendoza and Hugh Mackworth, who made this series possible. And thank you so much to the artists and PDX Contemporary Art and all of you for being here. So, Jeffry, I'll just read your bio if that's okay.
Please.
Okay, so Jeffry Mitchell's primary medium is ceramic, and he is well versed in its traditions around the globe. References to early American glazes, Pennsylvania Dutch pickle jars, asymmetrical Japanese aesthetic decisions, and Chinese food dogs abound. His pieces radiate an exuberant, unbridled immediacy. Mitchell seeks to tap into and broadcast a sense of vitality, whether it be joyful or colored with a more complex mix of emotions. This through line can be seen in the thick, dripping glazes, an unabashed appropriation of decorative motifs, and an unmistakable suffusion of playfulness. He is represented by PDX Contemporary Art in Portland, Oregon, and has had numerous solo and group exhibitions at the Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art, the Walker Art Center, and the Portland Art Museum, among many others. And then I'll share a little bit about Iván's work. But by the way, this is Jeffry's work right here, and the stool as well. And there's another pot somewhere. Oh, next to you.
Here.
Yeah, and then Iván's work is this very vibrant matte surface sculpture. So there's a little piece here, and then there's 2 large pieces in the back. So as a boy, Iván Carmona learned about modernism through magazines and TV documentaries. It was there that he was introduced to the work of Isamu Noguchi and Alexander Calder, and began to recognize their forms in the natural world around him. The mountains and the forests of Puerto Rico became sculptural constructions and swaying mobiles in his mind, and through his own visual language, he hopes to communicate these intimate moments in a manner accessible to a large audience. Looking back at a particular moment, Iván may remember a specific shape, color, or feeling. By working with clay, a product of nature, he is able to make the immaterial physical. The unifying effect of flat, rich color helps amplify the presence of even the smallest object and serves to highlight its curves, angles, and planes. Each of his works pulls the past forward into a new body for the present to see. By creating these physical manifestations, he can remember, reflect upon, and share his histories with the world. He is represented by PDX Contemporary Art as well, and has had numerous solo and group shows and public art installations and outdoor sculpture commissions. Okay, so that's a little bit about both of Jeffry and Iván's work. And, you know, I'll just share really briefly some context for the Belluschi Pavilion, just so people can get a little bit more oriented to it. So the Belluschi Pavilion is a signature Northwest modern small house created by acclaimed architect Pietro Belluschi for a private family and then donated to Marylhurst as a hospitable site for learning. This 911 square foot wood and glass house was completed in 1951 and restored in 2015. So according to the Oregon Live, the post-World War II minimum house was one of only a few Belluschi designed residencies still standing unaltered, and the only one of its kind in Lake Oswego. The house combines this original Wilhelmina brick and kitchen appliances and cabinets with new materials nested among the verdant foliage that is omnipresent in Lake Oswego. And you can read more about the history also on the sign outside and online, but it's pretty fascinating. And I feel really grateful that we're here, especially because I heard that this is the last event that they're doing here, and then a nonprofit is renting it out starting like tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So it's really rare, and I do feel like it's such a warm environment and so much fun to have Jeffry and Iván's work in this kind of like domestic setting, and also like in this rare, you know, like little gem and nested in the forest. Okay, so that was a lot of talking. We're gonna get to talking to the artist now. And I want us to begin. So I first met Jeffry through our friend and artist Ellen Lesperance a long time ago when I was a student at Pacific Northwest College of Art. And your work is so playful and alive, and your energy was so encouraging and like collaborative, and it just blasted open my mind of what an artist could be, and felt so safe, you know. And so I personally, that's like, I feel very connected to you and appreciate your work so much. And and Iván, I first learned about your work, I think through PDX Contemporary, where I saw your exhibition while I was working at the Regional Arts and Culture Council. And then I created like a program there that was a residency sort of hybrid, and Iván was selected to participate in that. So I just am really moved also by your work, I love that word in your bio, unifying, how the matte surface just unifies the form and kind of plays with dimension. Yeah. So saturated, and just, it's Yeah, it's very, I just want to touch them because they look almost like velvety, which I'm not going to, but yeah, so let's hear just like a little bit about your individual practices first, and then we can talk about the world together. But maybe Jeffrey, do you want to start us off like, um, what was creativity like in your childhood? Like how?
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think biography and that childhood experience is the kernel of everything. And I now realize I didn't spend a lot of time with my paternal grandparents. I don't think I ever met. It might have been an infant, but they passed away uh, before I got old enough. And then my grandfather, my maternal grandparents, my grandfather was a fisherman, and my grandmother was a woman who could do many things and did many things. So I was just thinking about how powerful that influence is from both of them. My grandfather would did macrame on the and made, mended nets and all that, but he had his own craft practice that he would do on board the boat when there was time. And his basement had all that enamel paint that he used to paint the boats. So that something about that smell and that thick ropey enamel surface and the craft involved with the boat. I never went out fishing with him, but just the boat itself and the maintenance and the materials of those things
Yes.
made a big influence. My grandmother taught me how to knit, crochet, do piecework like quilting, baking, and I would, all these motifs, uh, and even the manual dexterity and material awareness, I think, of what it's like to roll out pie dough and keep it cold, or you know what I mean, or even the dexterity it takes to knit. And she taught me how much better wool was than acrylic yarn. And like you kind of begin to detect these kind of qualities of things. So I think uh, those sort of domestic and living crafts had a big impact on me. Uh, and then I also believe too, because of my age, I've just turned 66. I'm still aware of a Depression era kind of sensibility about materials and values of materials and the kind of economy around that. And it's not to say I'm economical. I'm just saying that informs a kind of relationship with materials and like the value of paper or, maybe modest materials, things like that.
Yeah, I
So,
love that.
domesticated, for useful things that are also beautiful, um, or bring a kind of sense of safety, pleasure, enjoyment, yeah, care.
I feel that with your work. That's so fascinating. I can't believe I didn't know that too about your relationship with your grandma.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
only recently that I really begin to
Yeah.
kind of be aware how powerful that influence was. Because everyone, I mean, I don't know if everyone in here looks like there is, from my era, but did you all grow up knitting? I don't know. I mean, a lot of, maybe not you, but no, I'm teasing. I just saw you shake your head. I mean, I just think that nowadays, I mean, it's generationally, people are good at different things, but I grew up making stuff. And I think that had to do with my grandparents' sort of Depression era necessity to DIY, mend it, save it, reuse, all those things. I don't know.
I love that. And I feel like it's maybe not the most common experience for a young boy in the,
Probably not, no.
was that the 60s or?
Yeah, I was born in 58.
Yeah,
Grew up in
yeah.
the 60s.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's so amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Welcome.
So you have like a lot of those memories of working with your hands and
Mhm.
working in the domestic world, and
Mhm.
you remember enjoying that.
enjoying that
Yeah.
and finding, yes,
Connecting
both,
with
kind of pride and identity and being good at something that
Mhm.
not everyone can knit a sweater, and so I was proud of that.
Oh, that's so incredible.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard, but then also not that uncommon either. I mean, there's a lot of people have been, in the world have learned to knit sweaters and
Yeah,
such.
just making use of the materials and being like respectful
Mhm.
with them. And I love that like depression era like influence that maybe drew you to more, resourcefulness.
Resourcefulness. Yeah, yeah.
Because I do feel like I've seen maybe even newspapers in your work. Or
Yes,
just, like,
and I've used newspaper and newsprint and that
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also the other thing I now recall is in second grade I made a hippopotamus mask out of paper, and it was a thing of great pride
Yes.
because I was able to cut the mask or cut the paper in such a way and bend it and make a seam allowance and then cut that so that it could be curved in
Yes.
multiple directions.
Yes.
And I thought it was, I mean, in my mind, so cool. I made the ears cupped so that they would come like that and the little nostrils pop up. So this, my, you are attracted to what you feel like you're good at,
Yeah. And did you feel like from that point on you identified as an artist, or when was it?
I mean, definitely was interested in making things, but it wasn't until I was in my young 20s that
Oh,
I
okay.
called myself an artist.
Yes.
Made that decision.
Yes, that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense for a child.
Yeah, yeah.
But Yvonne, how about you? Like, what was your upbringing like, and how was your creative practice nourished in your childhood?
But I grew up in Puerto Rico, in a small town called Luquillo, and Luquillo is really near to rainforest and Yunque. So I was always surrounded by this kind of intense vegetation. And it was free kids, my mom would say, come back by lunch, or they yell to you when it's dinner time, or neighbors tell you it's dinner time, go back home. So I had so much freedom going up there and exploring and making our own toy. It was a small family farm, and mostly what we grew up was for consume from ourselves, our neighbors. And I didn't grow up with many toys, so you had to create your own environment, like creating houses and creating things to entertain yourself during all this whole day off that you had. And making it came quite natural for me, like mud, it was available, it was in the countryside, so we just dig for it and try to create things. So making two-dimensional objects, it was really natural for me.
Out of mud?
Out of mud, yes.
Oh, out of mud.
Okay.
Wow.
Found clay.
Like cob, or was it just clay?
Just found clay on
Okay.
the side because my dad built our home in concrete in Puerto Rico because of hurricanes. And also that's another memory, helping him carrying out the bucket with concrete to bring it to him. So when you see a landslide, you can see the yellow ochre, some gray clay, and that saturation of colors, it was really pretty for me. So I was always trying to see and make something related to that. And also the influences through elementary school of the Taínos. The Taínos are indigenous from the Caribbean, and try to make a little pot and try to replicate the idols, and how trying to figure out how they made that possible and last for a really long time or period. And exploring experimentation. So I have much freedom about that kind of area and being introduced to animals and my mom used to make clothes at home. And I always have the idea of that craft of making because she learned that from my grandma, and she always told me that she always hated when my mama got quiet, introduced her mandatory to it, and then became an income from home. So I always remember her just sewing, making these quinceañera dresses that she hated. It's so intense making.
I bet.
Yeah, and when she make a mistake and the fabric is completely ruined, and she had to cover the expenses of it. So I remember she spending really long time hours doing that.
Yeah.
One of my interactions to it, because I never make clothes. That's something the boys doesn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really she really give me the tasks of breaking the stitches from the fabric. So and I became really meticulous, like really tied into it.
Methodical, yeah.
I
Really-
bet. Yeah.
yeah,
With a seam ripper.
exactly, because you don't want to break that.
Yeah, you don't want to waste
You
the
do
fabric.
each stitch by,
It's this, yeah, by hand, by this little hook, or by the scissor. And it was just, I enjoy it. Like, I love it. Like, that task that don't break it. And it's like, it was some joy about it. They can finally focus on something and sit down quietly and just do it.
Yes, it's so centering to like
Yeah,
have that
centering.
focus, and I love imagining you with making these little clay pots and just kind of replicating some things that you've
Yeah.
seen, and they're ephemeral because they're not fired, right?
I tried, but
Yeah.
I was really failed in that part because I didn't know the process of clay. Putting 20 open fire pit when it's wet, it will blow up.
Yeah.
Putting my mom's oven and just
Mhm.
had to, clean the mess after. But it was fun. It was fun doing that, and eventually replicate and try to make faces and being in school and introduced to Play-Doh and plastiline and
Oh, okay.
really trying to. So I knew that making part because I remember drawing, and I quite not get it because for me making it interdimensional is quite bringing life what I try to make, and so well why should I draw it if I can make it? So it's easier for me to see things in two-dimensional ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas into two-dimensional
Uh-huh.
space. My dad, he later, when I became a formal artist and then started being invited to galleries in Puerto Rico, he always was proud and said he was the foremost sculptor because our house became his lifetime project. Like he's never stopped making it. Like why keep making this thing bigger? Where it's like my sister already left home, my brother dead, but he had this idea of security, but also business, busyness,
Oh yeah.
being
busy.
busy, being busy all the time. So I keep saying to people, well, I'm a sculptor too, and that proudness that I finally felt he identified with me because being an artist in Puerto Rico is almost impossible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a handful of artists who have made it like a full-time artist. I was working full-time also in the pharmacy land and also in my ceramics art. But finally, when they saw that first show and saw that, yes, I'm good at this and I can make it probably a living that feels more identified and proud. They always supported in the really safe corner of it. Uh, um, but yeah, my dad always thought he was in a sculpture. And I knew as a kid, even knowing what the connotation of being an artist is, like that's what I was said. I want to be an artist. Like I have that drive is of finally to do that, and I don't felt identified with no one during my community in Puerto Rico because nobody do that art. So I was a neighbor architect, and that was it. But my mom's telling a story about one of my uncle that he died really young. They used to make wax sculptures, like real realistic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that was really interesting to hear from her. And
When did you realize that you were an artist then? And were you still living in Puerto Rico? And how did that
Yes.
get received? And
well,
Yeah.
I during college, you need to decide what you want to do. One was I look like to cook because
oh,
it was really that's one of my jobs that I had to do when my mom finally started working outside, teaching classes, making clothes, and I was the one arriving home first, so I started cooking, and I quite enjoyed that. And the other one was being an artist, And my mom strongly suggests to study something else, like pharmacy technician. It was a career really solid in Puerto Rico, and you can have full-time job with all the benefits that I actually did.
Mhm.
And that's really where, getting all these things that eventually put my parents in the insurance, health insurance.
How long did you work at Walgreens?
In general, I 20 something years.
See, that
That's a long
surprises me. That's a
time.
long time. But the good,
Persistent. Yeah.
I mean, insurance and paycheck.
Yeah, and that was the hard part of it, how you quick work, you get the golden ticket
Yeah.
job.
Mhm.
It was hard, my parents on that and pay really low fees, so I quite get trapped in that, what was the time I was finally go to art school, because that was the deal, that I take this job, I take this education, and eventually I get my own money, just slowly move on to the art side.
Mm.
And I did.
Oh, nice. So you had that plan.
I had that plan.
Yes.
To art school.
Okay.
But meanwhile, it's just, I took my first ceramic class. My teacher bred her on her land, and we had this interesting trade that she cannot pay me, I cannot pay her. So I worked for her for free, and she introduced me to the galleries in Puerto Rico, let me use her studio.
Oh, nice.
So, and she got slowly, really slowly, almost in a period of 5 years or six, finally gallery called me directly to me after participating in group shows and donating a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
That was the trick, donating work.
Yeah, exactly.
She was like, trust me. I was like, no, I love this. Just
Oh,
yeah, she was
Donating work to like auctions or something?
Yes, for all benefit
Mhm.
Benefits?
benefit options,
Benefit auctions.
like probably 12 to 15 pieces.
Wow.
And then, finally gallery saw my work, and
Mm-hmm.
I got invited for a show.
Oh, when did you move to America?
2011.
Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
2011.
And then you didn't know Iván in Puerto Rico, did you?
No.
Okay.
I met him at Oregon College of Art and Craft.
Oh.
And he was a senior
Yes.
getting his BFA, and I was a visiting artist. And I asked him if he could help me make some, because he was a good hand builder,
Mm-hmm.
make some animal sculptures, and then I would decorate them.
Oh, I
So-
love that. What were the animals?
Lion was the first one, like a kind of a lion.
How was that for you to work like figuratively or in the animal?
Well, I worked figuratively before in Puerto Rico, but it was a human figure.
Oh, that's true. Your earlier sculpture was really realistic,
Oh.
highly polychromed, realistic, kind of shockingly alive. looking.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll show them that.
That is surprising. I
It's
didn't-
surprising. So this work is a complete
As a complete.
departure, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That shows like your, I don't know, like your, I don't know how to say it, restraint or like ability to like do that and then kind of distill it down and create
Mhm.
something very like elemental and like structural.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I like the Miles said, seeing Negoshi Carter.
Yeah.
It was just blow my mind.
Mhm.
Seeing something so abstracted, not literal translated, so I can see
Yes.
Cardell mobile like
Mhm.
branches of the tree. So like, yes, I feel really identified with it. I was so intimidated about the movement because it's been done really well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was capitalized to the sign too. So it's like, why is my interpretation? So I
Mhm.
quite submerged myself into the figure because that time I was trying to evoke emotion to the figure and also symbolism that quite that time didn't know. It was just visually visually convey that, but when people ask me, I couldn't connect the dots, and that's why I was ready for school that time.
Yeah,
That was the link, the missing.
I didn't realize that you both met at OCAC.
Mhm. Yeah, before it disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
But OCAC was great, and a surprising choice, I would say, out of all the places to go to art school.
Yeah.
If you'd never spent time
Yeah.
in the U.S., to come all the way to Portland.
Uh-huh.
But what I think is funny, you told me that you looked up on Google Earth,
Yeah.
like what the landscape around, and the landscape up around
Gorgeous.
Oregon College of Art and Craft is great.
And that's what
And-
drew you to OCAC, just like the
Yeah,
green.
green, the rain, because I live near
Yeah.
the rainforest. So- And also the winter time wasn't that bad. My other choice was Kansas City.
Bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
So working for Jeffrey when it was such a liberation making wise, because I don't have to think about content, I don't have to think about myself, mostly the shape his expectations or her sketches to it. So it was a good craft challenge. Like and I'm a little too intense when I make my work, so making the work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And relieve you a little bit too, right? So
Yeah.
you can be a lot more kind of free to express on the surface. And then, do you work that way? Like, do you sometimes hire out or have fabricators?
I have, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
assistants help. Yeah, that's.
And I'm actually, to be honest, not as good at making so then I would do drawings, then I draw a lot. Like you don't draw a lot, but I draw a lot. And which I'm much more comfortable at. And I would give him drawings, and then he would like do it. And then
Wait, what was that?
make it, he makes it with coils. But the precision is shocking, kind of like his ability to read the drawing, translate it into three-dimensional form.
Wow.
And you have a real care about like balance and how shapes go together and a precision that I don't have. So it's nice to, it actually really, I think, benefits the work of art in the end. Is to have the bones of this precision and kind of structure that's really carefully done, the architecture of it, and then I go and put another layer of ideas and concerns and gestures on top
Yeah,
of
I
it.
make the cake and Jeffrey make it delicious.
I do the decoration. Yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah.
I mean, I do have to say, I remember when you were at PNCA doing this like random visit through Ellen Lesbron,
Yeah.
that you came in and sat at the wheel, the pottery wheel, and threw a pot instantaneously. And I was like in shock at how, I don't know, it was just like, it's so impressive. And then I think you prompted me to add on a few things under, and I made a pretzel.
Yes, you did.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, well, I have that piece, so I
Do you?
never remember.
Yeah.
And they made a nose on it, but you had
Yes.
prompted me to like stick kind of a lot of things on the surface, and I was like ecstatic to have that like invitation to
And
interact with your work, and I love that that's like a precedent. Like you've been doing that, and that's like a way of collaborating.
Yeah, it is kind of good, isn't
Making
it?
it accessible. Yeah, I love it.
The experience is really good. Like the in the art world,
Yeah.
the object is the product is can be either a success or failure, valuable or not so valuable. But I think most of us artists are in it for a multiplicity of reasons, and the payoff in selling the work might be part of it, but also just the experience of that collaborative moment
Yes.
is really, I don't know, feeds me.
Yes. Yeah, just the way of, it's like a way of living life where
Yeah,
it's
right.
all artistic, or it's all has the potential to engage and become something creative. Actually, I do remember Ken Kesey said something like that because he was a wrestler, and I did write an essay about him
Oh,
recently,
really?
so he's in my brain. But he was a wrestler, and he talked about um his interest in performance art as like uh kind of just a way of engaging in this like it was like the most collaborative way to engage in life was like to sort of play with everything and with everybody and utilize everyone for like his theater and it inspires me. Yeah. Um, so let's talk more about like the togetherness now, because I hear a little about your upbringings and how you kind of like became artists, and then the way you initiated. And so I'm just curious, like what your daily lives are like. I guess that does kind of go with what I was just thinking. Like how does art play into the way you make your days?
Very boring. It's
I don't think it's boring.
well,
but
it's really not boring, methodical. It's really routine. It's a
routine. That's the right word.
It's really
Routine.
routine.
Which is awesome
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
It's home studio home.
Both of us,
Because
luckily,
you live together.
we both now don't. We make our livings off our art,
Yeah.
which is astonishing.
That's
It's
amazing.
forever. He worked at Walgreens. I waited tables and did other jobs, and so that's lucky
Yes.
or good. And then and both of us love to work in the studio,
Mm.
so we work together in the studio, and then we go home and do the domestic thing together. But it's pretty simple and routine. But I'm all for it now. I think
Yeah.
it's good.
When I got at school at OCC, and we creating this goal, and I remember telling you, Thomas Orr, that my goal in art is just being a full-time studio artist.
Yes.
So the moment I accomplished that, it was like this, finally, that was it. And I made it, and I make my living just on that. It's just like happiness for me. It's just like, I'm happy just doing that for the rest of my life.
Oh.
Just have enough to support myself and maybe some traveling finally, we did Mexico. So that is just, for me, is I accomplished that. So it's not much it's a job, but feels natural, like something that stay one day at home. I was like, I should be in the studio, it's like, feels like anxious, like I cannot be here. Like, why am I here? My house is big, studio bigger than our apartment. That's
Oh,
why I do
wow.
that.
Yeah, our studio is much bigger than our apartment, and,
That's
which is
beautiful.
exactly how we want it. Yeah.
Yes. I feel like even just knowing you have that space is like allows for you to dream so big, and
Yes.
even just thinking about your studio, knowing it exists is probably so relieving to put those thoughts.
Well, and it's the thing that when you don't have it, is like
Yeah.
why you feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
Is like, I don't have a big studio. I don't get to spend all my time in the studio, and now we do. So no, can't complain about that.
Yeah, that's
Which is
beautiful.
liberating. Yeah,
I love that.
it's really great. And your kind of attitude about having accomplished the sort of pride and gratification of accomplishing that, I found very inspiring,
Yeah.
because the art world can really
Yeah.
mess with your expectations of and demands for like success and acknowledgement, external, validation, and
Yes.
tons of money, and
hmm And
And-
yeah, and you,
yeah, it's unrealistic. I
Mhm.
mean, or it's warping,
yeah.
and this is like, I think we're living a pretty fantastic life right now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so inspiring that you have each other to kind of like
Yes, I think we
stay
do support
buoyant,
each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
to stay buoyant, exactly.
Yeah, because it is easy to like I think a lot of artists and maybe like artists who have representation from galleries can feel like they're maybe like making the greatest hits over it's not free, like it's not
Mhm.
feeling as free as they want. And
Mhm.
I just think that's so beautiful that you both feel like you just with each other can stay free, basically.
I mean, buoyancy is such a great
Yeah,
word.
I know, absolutely.
Because I think that I would say most of the artists I know, it doesn't take much to buoy them up.
Mhm.
So, a sale, a compliment,
Yes.
a exhibition, a
Exactly.
acknowledgement of somehow. It a little bit goes a long way because we are resourceful, I would say, by nature as we're inventors and
Yes.
figuring things out and making things up. So, but buoyancy is the thing, and I think the mutual support
Yeah,
is really golden.
that's so great.
Yeah, because all left to your own habits of thinking, discouragement kind of can lead to more discouragement.
Yes.
Or
Isolated in
Yeah.
the studio, kind of that myth of like being a solitary artist.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I kind of love that it's a new narrative there. It's a new dynamic.
Yeah, because I lived alone and worked alone for a long time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember.
And made a lot of work and was
Yeah.
quite happy.
You had lots of visitors coming.
Had lots of visitors. Was very social.
Yes.
And now I have less kind of I have very few visitors, and and what I like is that we like working in the same space, but we can each do our own thing and
Yeah.
or help each other, whatever the occasion needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like any, I mean, I'm sure every day, but what about each other's work has inspired your practices, like your individual practices? Like has being in the same studio, has that influenced certain things in your own practices to go a little different, or I'm just curious.
Something big, good quality that actually make me feel attracted to Jeffrey and be his partner is when I was working with him, it's the time of laughing and giggling of his work making. Like I never seen that before. And it's like, why he's laughing at? And then it's time to figure out he's laughing and giggling
Oh.
what he's making.
So you laugh and giggle when you're making work.
Yes.
Yes.
And Iván can hear it in the studio and
Yeah.
like laugh too.
He did.
Oh, I know.
Because and I'm so intense and so stressed something about it. It's difficult to help to make this volume project more into space without breaking and try to accomplish this crazy idea. And he's like, yeah. And we're like, what are you laughing at? And it's just that joy, that's like kid joy when making something.
Yes.
So much stress or expectation is something that I try to, okay, I love what I'm doing, I love it, but now relax a little bit. Not
Yeah.
be so intense about it.
That's such a great answer. I
Yeah.
love that example. And I
It's-
can see it. I mean, I can see that. Yeah.
Like I was told in the students' past, it's just clay,
Yeah.
We can always recycle and make it again.
Hmm.
So
That's really beautiful. I love that.
And I would say that your pragmatism
Mm.
has been helpful.
Mm.
Like instead of waiting for a perfect
Mm.
idea
Mhm.
or moment
Yes.
and sometimes I don't know if you have this. Do you have a notion that you want you find inspiring
Mhm.
in the external world, and then I kind of want to replicate that, either that excitement,
yeah.
that ecstatic kind of joy feeling,
Mhm.
and I don't know quite how to get there.
Yeah.
And so you get there by working,
Mhm.
by just starting. So that Iván is very gets his studio, starts working,
Oh, I
and
love
it's
that.
very helpful for me because now I have to or notice that I'm not working. I can.
Yes, and he has your. Oh yeah, and he's kind of like a witness for you.
He's a witness. Yeah, exactly.
The players.
No words necessary. But it is practical. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
how many people live in relationship here, but
Mhm.
just stuff, the domestic sphere, it's great to have a partner
Mhm.
for practical things. And then the same thing in the studio. If you're compatible, you know, and we both wear like headphones.
I was just wondering about that. Yeah, with the sound.
And he watch you watch.
I watch a lot of TV junk. And, you know what? It's just keep me. I figure out later that any extra stimulation what I'm making, so keep me going and listen to something and seeing it once in a while. Distract me with the intensity of making and relax me a little bit and make me focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also kind of probably getting out of your head a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I do the same thing actually too. And I never have thought about it in a conscious way like that.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting. We worded that. I just looked at my phone and we have maybe about 10 minutes, I think, to open it up
Yeah.
to everybody. It's, an informal conversation. If anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in.
Well, is he showing his work at the Lake Oswego right now in the city?
No, they're not showing their work. We have a different show up actually, and we have postcards in the back. The current show is called Lion in the Cloud, and it's mostly a body of work by Akihiko Miyoshi. Beautiful pieces.
I've seen it.
Did you go? Okay, and then and then in the back room we have 5 other artists that are incredible, very different media. I would love for you guys to come out and see it. Dina, I know, is one of the artists who's a ceramicist,
Okay.
and she made incredible Korean quilting technique, basically, but in clay on tiles instead of in the batting of the quilt. So it's just really intricate.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
But yeah, so this is just its own like standalone program that's part of the Art and Community Conversation program series we do. But hopefully one day we could have their work in the gallery or outside in the public art realm, or in the backyards, Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wonder, what's influenced your glazes? Has it evolved over time? Your glaze looks almost like dirt,
Well, this one is. I'm gonna sneeze. Um, I lived in Japan for 3 years as a 20-year-old, 21, 22, 23. And I taught English for a year. Then someone asked me if I wanted to work for a potter. This is in the early 80s. And I went to the countryside and worked for a potter. And I mean, it was
Wow.
a gift to me. I wasn't helping them really. I mean, but I would show up every day and couldn't work. And so those sorts, and there by region, everyone does the same, traditionally does the same glazes because it's from whatever the local mineral sources are
Oh.
traditionally. So those where I was, it was called Seto, which is one of the old kiln sites. And they had a clear kind of amber colored glaze. This is just, I've never been a technician. This is just something that someone happened to have that in a place I was in, made this in North Carolina, and I used this glaze. So what I usually do is use whatever's local or available or a very neutral kind of glaze ultimately. Like now I'm using a kind of a white
Yeah.
oatmeal, waxy satin glaze.
Ooh.
But I think I would say traditional things like lead glazes, salt-fired work, that early American stuff, the German stuff, the English ceramics, and then some of the simple Japanese glazes that are kind of straightforward, Korean, the very kind of fancy glazes that I don't normally do. But this is very, earthy. I don't know if I love that color, but
What's the purpose of the whole?
it is a, it's a conceptual gesture about utility. Like it could be useful, but it's not. And so it's just a decorative thing. In tradition, so in like early Korean pottery, have you seen these ritual things where they cut holes in them? Early Japanese pottery, they cut holes in them. And I don't know if they're practical, if they have some sort of ritualistic kind of meaning, but I think they do. And for me, it emphasizes that this is a work of art, not an actual pot that people use, you know.
Mhm. That's a beautiful response. Oh, yeah.
Jeffrey, your work is so joyful. Whatever your medium you're using, you know, I love works on paper. I also love ceramics, but I've always gone for a more, I don't know, abstract ceramics. But I love your mood, your I don't know, your whole thing, and the way you relate to other artists, like the show that's on at PDX right now, Justin's show.
Yeah.
Well, his little things, his little drawings, you know, the bugs. I mean, you have sort of this relationship with him.
Yes.
And I noticed on the food table you'd found some, I don't know, was it the fruit or something that was exactly matching some of the vines that were in Justin's work. I think it's so wonderful, you know. I mean, there's so much work that I think is just I mean, when it can be so kitsch, but you know, yours is just wonderful, and the way you made these stools and everything with little things on the bottom, and it just there were surprises.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you. I appreciate that. Justin and I have worked together. I really appreciate his mind and his sometimes the amount of stuff he let me come to his studio one time, and he has books. He just has big, they're almost like, I don't know, like
bugs and stuff.
Well, bugs and stuff, yeah, exactly. They're like illuminated manuscripts and just like piles of stuff. And that show that's up now is a really special show because it's deceiving in it looks fairly standard decorative flower paintings with a few bugs. But as you stand in front of those things, they keep opening up and opening up, and they give you more and more. The slow time release of his attention, which is is not uptight. They're tight paintings, but they're not uptight.
Yeah.
And they have a kind of, have you been to San Marco in Florence?
Yes.
Did the Fra Angelico, the paintings, the frescoes that are in those monk cells have a serenity and a kind of carefulness that is not neurotic or anal retentive. It's just calm. It's a kind of a peaceful, and anyway, I just see that in Justin's, he has a kind of slow spring that just kind of flows. Yeah.
It's so evocative. I'm like just taken with everything you just said.
Well, we've made some collaborative things. The frogs on that scarf that I made for you are Justin. And we did those together. And we did some screen prints, but we did painting on silk that was really, I mean, anyway, Morgan has one of the scarves.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
With a big homely frog on it.
Yeah, they're so fun. They feel really immediate, like it was an immediate frog. Like it just feels like it just came out of thin air, and it has such a presence.
It has, yeah, real vitality, yeah.
But at the same time, gestural and quite loose, and yeah, almost like a little messy in a way.
Kind of a little messy.
Yeah, but they're very alive. Yeah. I just wanted to ask Iván about your surfaces here, because there was that question about glaze. And are yours glazed or are they painted?
No, they're
They're
painted.
Okay.
I've totally. I grew up with such a traditional ceramic making, a purist, I call it, period. When I was trained with the pinch pot, buildings, glaze making by your own from scratch. And when I reached OCAC, I was ready to get more from glazes. Of course, I did glazes all my 4 years there.
Mm.
It happens really later when I was like looking for saturation of colors that I could accomplish with glazes. Also the versatility of things when you glaze. Sometimes the tensions crack. Those joint connections or some of the sculptures was quite failure that
Yeah.
then I have to start over again. So I did this thanks to research of curve cold finishes in ceramics because the struggle in ceramics, the object and the glaze had to match. Like the glaze can ruin it, the objects, and vice versa, or the objects can ruin it up entirely, the glaze. So that's the difficult part of ceramics. I did the research, I tried acrylics and other mediums, but it feels like a surface not integrated into the form.
Yes.
And I found this paint and I fall in love with that velvety quality and that sense of wanting to touch. It's even soft to the touch.
Yeah, it looks almost flocked.
Yes, and that attract and that's added to the connection with my mom and the cloth making and the fabric.
Yeah.
And that velvety.
That's right.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Because this is doesn't have it as much that the sculptures in the back, but that textural gestural mark is from memories of seeing my dad work in the ground or work in the concrete.
Oh, I see that. The
Trademark.
grit kind of, yeah.
Yes, that sort of raked
Uh-huh.
kind of surface
Yeah.
from the whatever you call that thing in
A trowel?
a trowel. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's probably more technical terms like Fresno or you know, John. Yeah.
Oh no. So yeah, those both things memories because my work is so nostalgic memory wise, so connected to the work. So it feels how moments like yes, this is what I needed, and this is.
The thing that I love about your surface that you told me was that the kind of combed or serrated edge, like rib that you use to make those concentric lines, like scratch marks, are like in the Japanese rock garden where you have a rock and these sort of raked patterns. And then also it's a aerial view of the islands in the Caribbean, like Puerto Rico surrounded by water.
Like
So
Africa.
not on this one, but on those back there, you'll see little blobs
Yeah.
that are like the islands in the sea. And I just found that so such a great notion. Yeah.
That's so dreamy, and there's so much nuance there. I just feel like both of your work, there's so much, like in this one specific conversation, I just learned so much about the context and why certain things are the way they are in your work. I'm so grateful to get that much insight
nice.
into your worlds and how you work together too. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you use the record process to achieve definition?
I did.
I love
Really early for my figure work because my first teacher and mentor, she only did that technique and was she the only one on the island because it's such a harsh, kind of risky technique to make fire something at the end. So I developed this monochromatic glaze by my own that quite separate me from her to create this body of work that eventually get invited to the galleries. But it was with the figurative and using vases into the narrative. So yeah, Raku is why getting those old kind of textural surfaces that I wanted from the smoke or the reduction. Eventually someday I want to go back, but you can imagine if you did the technique before, something like that would just quite fall apart completely because such a shocking, dramatic thermal shock between hot to the cold, that pieces like that will be break.
Have you done Raku?
No, we have some pieces made that way. We admire the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Raku is incredible.
It's always a favorite, like in art school, you walk into the ceramic studio, you can smell
The burn.
you can smell the burning, yeah,
Yes.
whatever.
And it just feels so witchy, like this.
Yeah.
It smells good.
Just like not knowing what you'll get and mixing everything with each other, creating those chemical reactions that create those iridescent sort of surfaces.
For my first show in Puerto Rico,
Mhm.
I was working in Corson Warring, so my free time, I was firing and making work. So it was remember that I was quite in the edge of my deadline, and I was firing the tree in the morning, and it was firing this huge head in rockwood, and I have this huge trash can, and the one part of my technique is to bring in that flame up high for a really long time period to achieve the surface. And they push this trash can on top, and suddenly the trash can just blow up
Ooh.
because it was so much flame into it, so it created quite
rocket.
like a rocket. Yeah. And had this feeling of it. I was like, okay, now it's time to go to bed. I just put the fire down. This is a little too intense, but
It's dangerous.
but that's part of the excitement. The flame is just, it's like, yes, do it bigger for me. I need to sleep a little bit too, but let's finish this.
Yeah, it is very exciting. Are there any other questions? Oh, we are. I would encourage everyone to just mingle around a bit if you can, meet the artists and get to know each other a little bit. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming and engaging with us.